The Hundred Years' War began in a burst of knightly enthusiasm. Trained to be warriors, knights viewed the battle as the ultimate opportunity to demonstrate their fighting abilities. This war proved to be of the utmost historical significance because it changed the nature of warfare. The French army, on paper, looked to be unbeatable, with its heavily armed noble cavalry and thousands of crossbowmen. These nobles no longer fought as vassals of the king, but rather as highly paid mercenaries. Tactics for the French had changed little since the 12th century, and this, as the only proper soldiers were knights, they looked down upon the crossbowmen and rarely used them correctly. The English army had included peasants as paid foot soldiers, armed with pikes and meager armor. Many Englishmen had also adopted the longbow, which did not have the power of the crossbow, but was much faster to load and could shoot at a much greater range. It was centuries of fighting against the ragtag armies of Wales and Scotland that had transformed England's tactics. The first real test of the two armies came at the Battle of Crecy in 1346. The English army outnumbered some 4,000 knights and men at arms, 7,000 Welsh and English archers, and some 5,000 Welsh and Irish spearmen. The English army fielded five primitive cannons. The numbers in the French army are uncertain, but may have been as high as 80,000, including a force of some 6,000 Genoese crossbowmen. Massing their archers on a hill, the English rained arrows down on the French cavalry, which rode headlong into them. Although the longbow was not very accurate, it allowed for rapid reloading, and English archers could send off 3 arrows to the French crossbowmen's one. The result was a blinding shower of arrows that unhorsed French knights and caused a mass confusion. The firing cannon, probably the first use of artillery in the West, created further panic. Thereupon, the English horsemen charged and butchered the French. The English victory was total. By midnight, they had lost 100 men while killing over 30,000 French knights. This battle was not decisive, however. The English simply did not have the resources to take all of France. The English campaigns were waged by Edward III and his son, the Black Prince, whose campaigns in France were devastating. Avoiding large battles, his forces deliberately destroyed the land and massacred peasants. For the English, such campaigns were profitable. For the French, it was morale breaking. Still, the debacle of Crecy taught the French nothing. In 1356, an army of 21,000 French soldiers under the leadership of King John II of France met 6,000 English under the Black Prince at Poitiers. Once again, the English longbow dominated the day, seeing 3,000 French dead and under 100 for the English. The battle abruptly ended when King John II himself was captured by the English, who held him for a ransom and an enlargement of Gascony. Once again, however, the English could not fully take advantage of the situation. In 1396, a 20-year truce was signed, which was to be revisited in 1416. Tensions exploded, which drove Henry V, the English king, in 1415 to renew the war. At the Battle of Agincourt, the French decided to try new strategy, which saw even more disastrous results. This time, most of the heavily armored French knights dismounted and attempted to charge the elevated English position across a soggy, muddy battlefield. Barely able to walk and entirely unable to rise again if they fell, all were captured. Out of fear that his numerically inferior English army would be overwhelmed if the French recovered their breath, Henry V had 1,500 French nobles massacred, along with another 3,000 troops killed as well. He took 1,000 of the most important nobles for ransom. English losses were again less than 100. All the while, English armies continued to maraud the countryside. During this century of war, the French economy suffered even more than the territorial losses due to millions of deaths and constant disruption of everyday life. Politically and economically, France seemed doomed. At the darkest moment for France, salvation came at the hands of a simple peasant girl from the Champagne region of France. By 1429, England had allied with the powerful Burgundians, French nobles in the northeast corner of the country who coveted the Valois throne. Virtually all of northern France, including Paris, was controlled by their alliance. In 1429, they turned their attention to the city of Orleans, the key to southern France. The heir to the French throne, the Dauphin, was the weak-willed and uncrowned Charles VII. To him came Joan of Arc, an illiterate and deeply religious girl. She claimed to have heard the voices of saints ordering her to save Orleans and have the Dauphin crowned. After months of skepticism, the Dauphin agreed to allow her to accompany the French at Orleans. The French army, its spirit raised due to their belief in Joan as the messenger of God, defeated the English and won the day. The Dauphin was shortly thereafter crowned king. After his coronation, her luck began to fade. She failed to take Paris in 1431, was captured, and was sold to the English. She went on trial before the Inquisition as a heretic or a witch, which Charles VII did very little to stop. She was burned at the stake in May of 1431. Her short tenure proved, however, to turn the tide of the war. Although it dragged on for 2 more decades, defeat of English armies in Normandy and Aquitaine led to French victory. By 1453, the only possession in France that the English held was the port of Calais.